Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talmbout Rasslin, right here on the Black Phoenix Network. I'm your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. So it is another Saturday. Happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone. If I didn't say it last week, I probably did. Who cares? Ladies and gentlemen, it has been one hell of a week. In the world of AEW, Full Gear was off the chain. A lot of people are calling it one of the best pay-per-views of the year for AEW. And this past week on Dynamite / Collision, your boy was in attendance, as I'm sure you've seen already. And let me tell you, I have notes. It was a great time. It was really a great time. I have notes. But first and foremost, before we get into all of that, again, this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation, and I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in again to the Black Phoenix Network, wherever you may be tuning in, whether it be here on Substack or on YouTube, or whether you're listening to me on Spotify. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you like, you share, you subscribe, you tell somebody, you leave a comment, you leave a rating, you leave whatever you can leave to engage, because engagement is the key. Engage, engage, engage. And the more engagement I have, the bigger the platform grows and the more I can do to bring you all into the game. Okay, bring you all right here into it, because I want to interact with you all. And if you're watching, y'all, I absolutely want to hear from you. I want to eventually have lives where I maybe can bring you on screen, maybe have you guest host. Who knows? I know there are a lot of you who probably would like to get into a podcast space. Some of you that have. I wanted to be in it for the longest, and I just decided to go ahead and do it. And here I am finally here doing it with you all. So thank you for tuning in. Also, make sure you check out all the other content here on the Black Phoenix Network, like my What's Up Wednesday articles, which I posted on Wednesdays, obviously, because the name of it is Wednesday, on my Substack. Every now and then I have toyed with doing like a video version of the What's Up Wednesday, where I discuss whatever there is to discuss, and I do it kind of in a live video, a short, like 20-minute video or so, as opposed to like this long form podcast space. So make sure you check that out as well. And eventually Manifesto Mondays will be back, tweaking to see how I want to do that going forward, whether I want to do it, continue with it just being strictly audio, if I want to add a video component, and how I want to focus it. I have some other kind of collaboration things coming up that I want to do. So just trying to figure out how that's going to work. But Manifesto Mondays will be back. So with that being said, we're going to continue. Before we get started, one more house cleaning thing. Not even house cleaning, but just making sure thing. You know what time it is, as is the tradition here on the Talmbout Rasslin podcast. It is time for the shirt of the week, and this one, well, just hear me out. So here we go. Whose house? You already know who it is. It's your boy Swerve Strickland. This is the brand new Swerve Strickland t-shirt that just released, and of course that I just copped from this past week's Dynamite. There's not much to say about the shirt, but I will say something about AEW's merch selection. So I will say they have gotten tremendously better than they have been in the past about what merch they have available, how much and what merch they have available at the live events. There's always, I don't know what the metric is, whether they're using like what's the highest sellers or whatever, but there's always, they've gotten kind of to a place where they at least have the top people, they have their gear, and then they have it kind of spread out with other stuff. So like for this one, for the merch stand that I went to, and I'm thinking there were more than one. I know there was one in particular that I saw obviously when I went in. I didn't peruse the venue, I didn't really have time to, but the one place that I saw, the one merch stand that I saw, they had, when I got there, they had one set of things, and then they had something else when I left. Like this Swerve shirt and the Hangman shirt that they had weren't available when I got there. But after the segment that they showed up, I guess they did end up having them. Because by the time I went and got this, normally those types of things are like sold out. They had every size. So that was interesting. But this time they had Darby Allin stuff. They had Tony Storm. Eventually they had this Swerve shirt. They had the Hangman shirt, the pink Hangman shirt. They had an AEW, just a AEW logo show where the best wrestle. I want to say maybe like an AEW hoodie or like short sleeve hoodie. I mean, kind of lightweight hoodie kind of thing, hoodie t-shirt or whatever, hoodie long sleeve t-shirt. I want to say there was more, but it doesn't jump out to me. But those were the ones I definitely noticed. I noticed the Darby. I noticed the Tony Storm. I noticed the AEW shirts, the Hangman, the Swerve. And of course, they had the titles on sale. They had the women's title on sale. They had the men's world title on sale. Figures, hats. So they really had a nice assortment of things that you could get. And from the people you actually wanted. Because I've been to some AEW shows where the merch selection was, I think All Out 2022 when I went in Chicago. Like that show was one of the best experiences I've had at a wrestling show. But the merch was lacking severely. So they've gotten much better, much, much better. All In was the same way when I went earlier this year. All In was the same way. It was much, much better than it was when I went back then. So that brings us to today's topic, which is more AEW. Listen, I know I talk a lot of AEW stuff. This show is basically this podcast is basically turned into like a Dynamite or a pay-per-view, an AEW review show, and every now and then I'll cover like some WWE stuff and whatever else. But hey, AEW is my favorite promotion. And until I start following other stuff or we get some other, suggestions or things of that nature, this is what you're going to get. So if you want me to talk about anything else, hey, make sure you put it in the comments, ask a question, email, DM, put it in, whatever. Run them numbers up, though. Run them numbers up. But I say all that to say, again, Full Gear was an amazing pay-per-view. The common criticism for AEW pay-per-views, and this one holds the same, is that they are extremely, extremely, extremely long. And when they start at 7 or 6 in the afternoon or whatever, when they start at that time, that makes that runtime feel very, very, very long. This one started at 7. It was literally like 11:30 when it was over. So take that as you will, right? I'm not one that will necessarily complain about that, but I understand the complaint. And now I will say they're back to back to back to back to back matches. There's not a whole lot of filler. There's not a whole lot of rigmarole. When you watch a WWE pay-per-view, listen, Survivor Series is well tonight because it's Saturday. Survivor Series is tonight. There are 4 matches on the card. 2 of them are War Games matches. Cena versus Mysterio, and what's the other thing? I'm sure it's a women's match. Is it Stephanie McCurry versus Nikki Bella? I think it is. So you get those 4 matches. That pay-per-view is probably going to be like 4 hours too, and not a whole lot of action. But that's just how those pay-per-views are. I'm not watching, of course, because I'm not buying the ESPN thing, but that's neither here nor there. So this was a long show. I didn't fall asleep this time. Can you believe it? Especially not on the Kyle Fletcher match, which usually happens. And that's not a shot at Kyle Fletcher by any stretch of the imagination. It's just I didn't this time, so that worked out really well. But I do feel like I may have nodded at one point, but not at that. Or maybe I just wasn't paying attention for some reason or something. Nonetheless, my predictions. I didn't even count what my predictions were and how they turned out, because I know the main event alone let me know that my predictions are ish. Okay, because AEW took some chances at this show that we did not see coming, and they took some chances on Dynamite and Collision as well. So I'm gonna cover all that too, and give you my thoughts on Dynamite and Collision from the live perspective as well as as a show. But let's start with Full Gear. First and foremost, the $200,000 4-way tag team match, where the winner would receive the $200,000. The Bang Bang Gang, Austin Gunn and Juice Robinson, beat not the Acclaimed, Big Bill and Brian Keith, and the Outrunners. Now I know I picked not the Acclaimed. I thought that would be the way to continue what they had going on, and maybe move them, but maybe them winning would have put them too close to choosing to be together, because whatever. But I don't know, because in the aftermath, like on an online thing or social media thing, they had kind of a backstage with Bowens where they're kind of like, he was saying, like, Bones was basically saying I should be a solo champion. I should be doing this, that, and the other. And he actually had good stuff to say about Max Caster, because he's like, and he should be as well, but we should be doing it separately. Max Caster comes in and he's like, I agree with you, but this is what the situation is, and the only way probably to get out of it is to get through it. So we probably just need to, figure this out. So again, that's one of the kind of AEW is really good for like having low key stories that just kind of bubble. And I think the Acclaimed in general, even the start, was one of those things, and it just grew. And I think this is going to do the same thing. But Bang Bang Gang gets the win. That plays into where we're going next, because again, there are things that go figure. Next up was Boom and Dome versus RPG Vice. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch that match at all. I think I was in the bathroom or something. I don't even know. Didn't watch that match at all. But Boom and Dome, of course, got the win, and I predicted that one, of course. Next up, you have Eddie Kingston and Hook defeated the Workhorsemen. Of course, predicted that one. That match was like 1 minute and 50 seconds, so I figured it would be a squash. But stay tuned. And for the CMLL World Trio Championship, we had El Sky team with Mystico, Mascara Dorada, and Neon versus the Don Callis family, Okada, Takeshita, and Hechicero. Listen, they did the thing again where um, the match starts. They're doing entrances with like 5 minutes left in the show, in the pre-show or so. So they did that thing again where the match starts and rolls over into the main card. Um, and this one I think was even better done than the first one. I've heard people say that, and I agree, because this time around there was actually a little bit of story as to why they did that. Not even why they did it, but just it made a little bit more sense, because in the midst of the match, Okada had not arrived yet. He wasn't out there. And they had hurt Mystico and sent him to the back already. And then as the show starts, pyro goes off, everything. They're going at it in the ring, and then you see this like Lamborghini, I think, pull up, and it's Okada in his gear, which is weird. Make it say, why were you pulling up to the arena in your gear? And he grabs his jacket, grabs his championship, and does his full entrance, and then gets into the ring, and whatever. And they end up losing. I figured they would lose because, of course, like I said, because Okada and Takeshita cannot get along. Okada again hit Takeshita like with the Rainmaker. It was very unsorry about it. Um, and that led to the finish. Listen, that match is going to do big numbers. And I enjoy the Okada character more and more every week, which is crazy. Because I went from I never thought he was like overrated, but what they had him doing in the Elite felt kind of meh, basically. And so this was a very welcome change of pace, or this whole thing is kind of a welcome change of pace. I like what I'm saying out of Okada. I just am. Show opens up, and I predicted. I think for the pre-show, I pretty much got most of that correct, because I said I picked everything but the Bang Bang Gang. I think I picked, and that obviously the thing. So going to the actual first match of the main show, you have Pac beating Darby Allin. Picked Darby for the win on this one, and I should have known. I should have known. Pac picks up the win after basically smacking Darby in the face with Sting's bat after interference from Wheeler Yuta, which plays into Pac obviously made the whole thing like, hey, we're not going to do all that death match crap and all the crazy stuff. I'm just going to beat you one-on-one in the match. And Darby had his number, and when he figured out that wasn't working, it was like, yo, bring me back so I can smack this fool in the face and get this over with so we can get up out of here. And that's what he did. Um, I don't hate it. I actually don't hate it. Darby's protected, especially how he won. Darby's protected enough to be able to take losses and not lose any of his mystique and not lose any of his steam. It really does work for Darby in that way. Next up, we had the 4-way tag team match for the women, where the winning team got to choose the stipulation for their semifinal match. Now that seems very strange in a nutshell, but I get it. So you had the timeless love bombs, of course, with Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa versus the Babes of Wrath, which is Willow and Harley Cameron, versus the Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue, and Megan Bayne and Maria Shafir. I predicted this one correctly because I said that the timeless love bombs would win, and they would be able to choose the stipulation in their match versus Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. More on that later. But this was also a really good match. Just a lot of everything happening all at once for all four of these teams. A lot of callbacks to to Blood and Guts, with the with Marina locking Mina into the mother's milk move, and this time Tony coming to break it up. So this was actually again, it was a really good match, uh, and not only the what I think was thought was going to happen, but I think the right people came out of there with the win. Next up, we had FTR winning the tag team winning the tag team championships from Brodito. This definitely was like match of the night. I predicted Brodito would win, but this is one of those matches where I was like, but I feel like it could be FTR. And masterfully done, clean. It actually was a very clean win. Again, match of the night. Go watch it for yourself. FTR does not miss. FTR does not miss. And then next up, we had the Casino Gauntlet match for the AEW National Championship, a belt that I don't think we actually needed. Not even sure why we did it. And really don't know why we did it when we start talking about the Continental Classic, but I'll come back around to that once we get to it. Because what in the Blue Blazers? All right. But whatever. That was one. The gauntlet was won, as I predicted, by Ricochet. So Ricochet is your new AEW National Champion. And he will be making his first defense at ROH Final Battle, which is next Friday, if I'm not mistaken, December 5th. I think that's correct. So, and they didn't even say who he was defending it against. But that's also an interesting thing that's going to be the first place that he defends it. But whatever. But also, the fact that Ricochet is on that show and he's doing big things on AEW also is kind of major. I mean, because Mercedes on that show too. So Mercedes and I want to say somebody else from like the AEW roster. That was big. Next up, we had Kyle O'Reilly versus John Moxley, no holds barred. I feel like I might have picked Moxley on this one, but maybe not. And if I didn't, I should have picked Kyle O'Reilly because I kind of figured it would be a pick. You know what? I'd have to go back and watch, but I'm pretty sure I picked Kyle O'Reilly. And Kyle O'Reilly again picked up the win, making John Moxley tap out. This match had a very specific violence to it. Because it was a wrestling match, right? Like Kyle O'Reilly is not a death matchy kind of guy. He's a wrestling guy. He's gonna get you in the holes and he's gonna wrestle you and do that. And Mox, while he can do that, is kind of the violent one, right? Story here is it was bloody as all get out because of course Mox has the fork. And the fork kind of was the only point of violence and blood to make it quote unquote no holds barred. Towards the end of the match, I think Kyle grabbed the chain, so there was that. Mox had a chair, so there was that. But besides that, it was brutal, but it wasn't like ultra like crazy violent. It was just brutal. Mox basically Pillmanized Kyle's arm, but eventually Kyle was able to get him in that ankle lock again. Moxley taps. Afterwards, Kyle O'Reilly's down because, Mox beat the shit out of him for the whole match. But Mox gives him a little nod of respect. And as he's leaving, he sees all the medics are in the ring trying to tend to Kyle. And he just, I guess, for whatever reason, takes it upon himself to go back and attack Kyle some more. Then like conglomeration comes out. They kind of run off the Death Riders. And then it starts getting a little weird. Mox is talking his, even though he lost, Mox is talking his big shit. And they're just kind of looking at him like it's a different look. It's a different look that they gave him than they normally give him. And from there, like in an online exclusive, again, it's Mox going backstage, talking this shit, giving this whole dissertation. But in the background, you see the Death Riders, and everybody that's watched it has said the same thing, and you can see it clear as day. It's like, oh, your time is cooked, brother. They are looking at you with this that with they don't believe you. They do not believe you. His days as a Death Rider are numbered. Next up, we're in a strange at first decision. Then you had Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher in a no DQ match for the TNT Championship. I'm pretty sure I picked Kyle on this because I didn't see his reign ending yet. But more crazy than that, the fact that they chose to do a no DQ match right after a no holds barred match was a very strange decision. Like as that match was going, I was like, okay, so the rest of this night should go this order, this order, this order, this order. So after Kyle and John, I said, okay, well, maybe we're gonna do the $1 million match, and then the TNT Championship, and then Stad versus Monet, and Joe versus Paige. Didn't do it, and I thought that was a choice. And I've seen some takes from people saying that this was it burnt the crowd. You got these two crazy matches, and then you hit them with Josh Alexander and the Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express, and the crowd was kind of worn out from that. I don't know if I really saw it that way or not, but I understand why they felt confident doing those two types of matches back to back, because though they are essentially the same thing, the no holds barred is basically the same thing as the no DQ. There is no difference. There is no difference. But even though there's no difference in what the match actually means, the way the matches played out were two different things. And I knew it once it happened. I was like, okay, the no holds barred match was brutal. It was like there wasn't a whole lot of plunder. There wasn't a whole lot of like stuff and high spots and anything like that. It's like these two people just beating the crap out of each other, doing submissions, doing this, that, and the other. And then one of them just happens to bring a fork in the ring and bring the blood about. Those are two different. They're two different, completely different things. Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher are going to take it, quote unquote, extreme, which is exactly what happened. There were like twisted ladders, tables, thumbtacks, a screwdriver, barbed wire. Truly, I mean that. Like, if you're going to say this was a hardcore match in the way that hardcore matches are thought to be, this was absolutely that. Kyle and I said all that to say Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher in this match. Mark Briscoe wins the TNT Championship, and I should have picked Mark Briscoe. If I was betting on this, I'd have been out a lot of money. I'd have been upset because I think I may have gotten more stuff wrong on this one, on this night, than probably many other. Because again, AEW took some chances. But Mark, and this probably wasn't a chance. The story probably was always that this was how it was going to go. There was a video package right before this match with Mark talking about losing Jay and wondering if he even wanted to continue to do this. And it was this really heartfelt and emotional video. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, well, Mark's winning. But there's no way you're going to show this saying that and he loses. So that kind of telegraphed that for me. He wins with like a razor's edge, basically, through a barbed wire table. followed by the J driller. That, like I said, there were thumbtacks, there was a screwdriver, there was table spots, ladders, very thin, flimsy ladders that tore and twisted and were jagged. It was hardcore. It was definitely hardcore. Um, Briscoe gets the dub. That was dope. Next up, we had Josh Alexander and the Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express. What my prediction was that Josh Alexander and the Bucks would actually win, but the Bucks would turn on the Don Callis family after the win, which is exactly what happened. Again, another crazy match. It's exactly what you would expect from the Bucks and Josh versus Kenny and Jurassic Express. After the match, Bucks got the money. They're leaving with Don Callis. The rest, Josh Alexander and the rest of the family are beating down Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express. The Bucks are torn. They're like, wait, what's going on? They end up leaving the money, going to save Kenny, and we get a reunited Elite. So we're going to see where that goes going forward. That is always good. Anytime the Elites are all together, heel or babyface, it's always good. So they seem to be leaning towards babyface right now. We're going to see where that goes. Kenny doesn't seem like he's going to be around like regularly, but good to see. If anything, he's the catalyst to probably the Bucks babyface turn. So let me tell you something. If they come out with Super Kick Party, it's up. It's up from there. You gotta forgive me. I gotta whip my whistle, man. I don't know why I'm so dry today. So next up, Chris Statlander versus Mercedes Moné. These two have great chemistry no matter what. Point blank, period. No matter what. They have great chemistry. They nail it every single time. This was no different. They had a great match. And truly went for it. But as I predicted, Statlander gets the win. I don't know if this begins the descent of Mercedes, but they definitely just know what to do in that ring. You know, and we definitely solidified Stat has now beaten the two top women in AEW. Even though she's the champion, she's beaten the two top women. Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné are the two top women in AEW. Period. You know, and you can actually argue who's one and who's one and who's two, or 1A, 1B. But Stat, as the champion, has now solidified herself as champion by beating the two very decorated, not even former champions, because Mercedes is still a champion. Toni was the premier champion of that division. And it's just so wild to think of where we are, that Toni is so solidly the face of the women's division, right? And again, Mercedes is right there with her, if we're being honest. I remember when that was Britt, and that wasn't that long ago. The power of the Toni Storm character has so taken AEW by storm. It is hands down, she is the top woman. And again, and the only other case could be made is that it's Mercedes. I'd still say it's Toni. They're 1 and 2, like they're the two top women on the PWI best women's list or whatever, for a reason. And next up, oh boy, we had Samoa Joe versus Hangman Adam Page in a steel cage. You would not believe me if I told you Samoa Joe is your new AEW World Champion. I if I was betting money, I would have lost everything because I would have bet the farm. I looked at all those matches and I said there's several matches on here that I think could go either. Sorry, that I think could go either way. That actually might have been one of the matches that I said that about, but never in a million years did I think they would actually do it. However, our wrestling convention speaks to absolutely that's what's going to happen. But I just thought that there's no way. The match is going. The cage gets open. Shibata makes his way out. Eddie Kingston cuts him off at the pass. Hobbs shows up, snatches the chain off the door, goes into the cage. He's nullified basically. Buckshot lariat. Out comes Hook. Hook goes to wake up the ref, then grabs the belt, smacks Hangman in the face. Samoa Joe hits the muscle buster. 1, 2, 3. Hook has always been with the ops. The entire thing was a ruse. They swerved and screwed everybody. It was insane. Truly shocked. Truly shocked. And I wasn't the only one. Look at anybody who reviews AEW. Absolutely shocking to take the belt off Hangman. However, still makes sense if we're being honest. Absolutely makes sense. There are people who are saying like, who are acting like this is some horrible thing that happened here. I think we've gotten so into these long, defined reigns that we forget sometimes the story narrative here, right? True enough, I think there are other people who you could have done this with, but I think it kind of makes sense that you do it with Joe in the way that you did it with Joe. And if he wins it back, I think that's okay too. If he doesn't win it right back, I think that's okay too. His reign was to me, I think it was very successful. I mean, I guess depending on who you ask, to me, I think the reign was successful compared to the first one, because I think the first one had its ups and downs too. But losing it to Punk the way he did, I think sucked. Even when it happened, and this was before I felt how I feel about Punk, but and he didn't lose it, and then the guy who we lost to immediately gets hurt and never gets to defend it or whatever, like the next day, and so I think this was the right. I don't even know if I think it was the right move, but it's not a move that I hate. Okay, because now we get to see where it goes from there. Quick note: Hangman came out to American Venom from Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I never played the Red Dead Redemption games just because I just haven't. It's not to say anything about them. I just haven't actually played them. But I do like that thing for him. Um, there may have been some foreshadowing, I think, with him using that thing as opposed to anything else. But you know, nice little twist. So then we get to the after. The ops are in the ring. The cage is raised. Joe has this new thing, the Ops Dojo, where basically he has these minions now that he can send out to be slaughtered in the place of he and the Ops. How's I cut my hand? So, they're all in the ring. They're all celebrating. The lights go down. A house appears. Nana appears. The house is on fire. And you hear the familiar Whose house? And that's right. Swerve Strickland reappears. Or should I say Super Swerve? Because he is massive. But he appears, not only does he appears with a new song, uh not the usual. Why can't I think of the name of the song now? Big Pressure. Not the usual Big Pressure, but a new song featuring Raekwon from the Wu-Tang Clan. Another thing I mentioned, because I meant to mention this earlier. I made a post. Stokely, before the FTR match, had his own belly-inspired video package. And nobody's going to do it for the culture. Stokely's going to do it for the culture. Well, Swerve's going to do it for the culture, too. Chef Raekwon, on an AEW thing is crazy. And it's really dope. It's a different vibe because it's going to take some minute to get used to. It's kind of this most dangerous. Who's that? Most dangerous. It's cool. Probably gonna take some getting used to for people because we've gotten so used to Big Pressure. But I think it's in the same way that we had gotten used to Ain't Nobody for him, and him not using that, was a thing. So it's just, I think, the next step in the evolution. And again, as huge as he is, I saw somebody say like he absolutely looks like a final boss, and he does. I mentioned before that Swerve is one of my top five. Of my not my top five, but one of my favorites ever. Like he's like probably one of my current. It's like him and Bianca. AJ as an OG is absolutely one of my favorites, but he's getting ready to retire. Currently going, it's Swerve and it's Bianca. There's nobody else I think doing it like that. And to see, they showed pictures where like of him in NXT versus him today, and they're like, it looks like the new Swerve ate the old Swerve. Listen, to see him elevate from, I don't even know if I could see him the way he is being a top guy in WWE. Not that he couldn't do it, but kind of in the same way that I see Tony Storm, I don't think they would know what to do with that. They're so tight with the reins that I don't know if they would let them kind of fly off the handle with some of the stuff they do the way they do. So good to see him back. And he comes down to the ring. The Ops make their exit. He beats down some of the dojo minions. Hangman gets up. He beats down some of the minions. The show goes off with them standing side by side in that very ring. So much symbolism there. The fact that the last time they were involved in something with a steel cage, we know how that went. The entire the original Texas death match started or was held at Full Gear in 2023. Yeah, in 2023, the original death match that started not started the feud, but really escalated, started in 2023. Like a lot of symbolism there between that and for that moment to happen kind of full circle. And that was Full Gear. Again, great show. Long, absolutely long, but a great show nonetheless. And that really got me ready for Dynamite, because it was also announced that on Dynamite, taking place in Nashville, Tennessee this past Wednesday, and Collision, because it was a taping, obviously, for Thanksgiving. The C2 is starting. And I don't know where I want to address the title situation, but I guess I will. You know what? I'll address it in the beginning because it happens very quickly, actually. But I'll start with my personal thoughts and my personal vlog. I started to vlog the whole thing. and kind of give you like the whole process. But I had so much going on that didn't get a chance to do that. So I did started with the little video in the beginning, just showing the pictures that I took. That Okada picture I took of him and his entrance and his, I ought to frame it. But I got my ticket the day before, that Wednesday actually, before I even left. I think I bought it that morning. I think, or maybe no. I got it Tuesday. Sorry, I got it that Tuesday before I left on Wednesday. Um, got my ticket, got my room, got it Wednesday, did all stuff, hit the road, boom to Nashville. Uh, do all my freshening up, head to the show. Now I have never been to the Pinnacle. I figured it was kind of in that downtown area. I'm not really sure. Um, but you can't miss the Pinnacle. It's very brightly lit. It's kind of like it's a very interesting venue. Because I could tell that it's definitely for concerts and a very specific type of concert. It's not made like an arena by any stretch of the imagination. Not made like any kind of arena or civic center. It's made, like I said, for concerts. That they were able to convert this for a wrestling show, I think is really cool. Smaller venue, of course. I was at the first Dynamite in Nashville. I looked it up this morning. That was episode 7 in 2019. I was there for that. I think every time they've been in Nashville, I come. Anytime they've been in Memphis or in the surrounding area, I've been there as well. So, and I've actually been to, well, that's the other day. So, to see the growth in that first Dynamite in Nashville was also in November. It wasn't the Thanksgiving show then. It was 2 weeks before the Thanksgiving show. And I was there for that as well. So to be there then, and Tony Khan actually asked, because he comes out sometimes, and he asked like, who was there for the first Nashville show, and of course I was there. And actually, it was the first AEW show that I went to because I don't think they came to Memphis. I know they hadn't come to Memphis yet. Me and a friend of mine went and took the trip. It was supposed to be 3 of us, but only 2 of us ended up going. And then Donovan came right back. That was crazy. But great show from the Pinnacle. Venue was pretty cool. Again, I like smaller venues. This was more like they didn't have food. It's a random thing. They had like popcorn and little snacky stuff like that, but mostly they had drinks, which is an interesting proposition because I can guarantee some of them people were drunk. There were a lot of random, just I'm going to scream through the night and say all the random things I say, so whatever. But being in a smaller venue makes for a much more personal experience. You can hear everything, you can experience everything. It's not like this so far away that it's not even realistic or whatever thing. I mean, there were so many. Again, I was. You can actually see me on camera a few times. Not like focused on anything necessarily, but like if you just pay attention, I know where I was at. So if you could just kind of where you are and you can kind of see yourself. I was on the back row, right in front of the left side of the stage. Or if you're looking at it head on, then it's the right side. But where I was standing, it was up to the left. But so anytime there was pyro, especially mostly the flames and stuff, was right there behind my head. I could feel every single. It was the kind of closest. Like if this goes awry, we're all getting set on fire. That hot. But made for great pictures. I was very close. There were like only 3 or 4 rows between me and the ring. So, really up close and personal. And I would say perhaps top three seats that I have had at a wrestling show. The number, I feel like it's one or two. I had second row seats to the Royal Rumble in 2010, which is the one that Edge returned. Uh, yeah, in Atlanta. Chili from TLC, who was a wrestling fan, if you didn't know. Chili from TLC was actually there. Well, she used to be. I don't know if she still is. Um, Chili was there. She was like one section over. So I actually got to not really meet her, but I was very close. Like I was actually behind her in like a line or something crazy. So that was really cool. Um, this may be one or two, right? Um, I almost got a picture with Tony Khan, actually. I just couldn't get my phone out fast enough. Because he was posing, like the guy next to me and his girlfriend took a selfie. I could have gotten in there with it, but I couldn't get my damn camera together fast enough to take it. So go figure. But again, that close, like really dope. Uh, and the guy next to me again was talking to Tony, and Tony was talking back. It was wild, crazy. So he was that close. Not the only interaction with talent that we had throughout the night. I was there by myself. There was a guy next to me and his girl, I think his girlfriend, I guess, and there were a couple of other guys to my other side. Um, it was really cool. Uh, you know, we were at that place basically. If you are sometimes, if you ever kind of pay attention, sometimes when people leave rather than go up the ramp, they go on the side of the ramp and through, whichever. So as they would go through the side of the ramp, they would pass us. It wasn't a lot of people. Um, Sisters of Sin came by us, and Matt Menard came by us. I feel like there may have been one other person, but it was those two for sure. They came by uh, when we after the matches. Let's see if I can find these results so I can remember what happened, because I was there, and I'm just gonna kind of go through real quick, as quick as possible. Opening it up, and this is where I'm gonna go on my rant. But first and foremost, opening up. So the C2 is live. One thing I left out was, of course, Okada and Takeshita lost that trios tag match at the beginning. Kyle Fletcher loses his TNT Championship match. So Okada, of course, is going to be in the Continental Classic because he still is the champion. Takeshita says, okay, well, I'm going to be in the C2 as well. And then here comes Kyle Fletcher, and he's like, okay, fine. I'm going to be in it too. So now you have Kyle Fletcher, Okada, and Takeshita in the C2. And automatically, it's like, oh, it's up. Whoever you manage to fill this in with, it's going to be crazy. And so we get the rest of the brackets. Actually, this is what I should have done. Oh, I should have pulled up the brackets already. I should have. But I'm going to do it now. Yeah. All right. So in the Gold League, we have Darby Allin, Pac, Kevin Knight. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. That's right. Kevin Knight, Speedball Bailey, Kyle Fletcher, and Kazuchika Okada. In the Blue League, we got Takeshita, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Orange Cassidy, Roddy Strong, Mascara Dorada. And oh boy. Oh boy. I feel like we got a little bit of everybody. We did. Because there were, between Dynamite and um, Collision, that we definitely got everybody in action to get their first Continental Classic action. That's kind of wild that everybody got to do that in one night. But So we're opening up the very first match in C2 action. It's Kyle Fletcher and Kazuchika Okada. And I was like, that's worth price of admission alone. And I don't know if anybody would have said that about Kyle Fletcher prior to like a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe. But he's gotten to that level that he and Okada are going to tear it down. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what it is about Tennessee crowds and wrestling. We're very specific. We're very wrestling oriented. I think state and town. Same thing with Memphis. Same thing in kind of Nashville. We have such a history with wrestling, but we're never like the hottest crowd. And that's even with WWE, right? And WWE crowds are very specifically. They're not like, I don't think WWE crowds are like hot. They're just conditioned to be whatever. But AEW crowds are strange because we are very into the action, but we're not like a quote unquote hot crowd necessarily. So like on TV, sometimes it seems cold. But when you're there, you can feel people being like into something, even if it seems a little quiet. So that's a very stark difference. But I say that to say, if you put this Kyle Fletcher Okada match in like Chicago, and I'm not even gonna lie, just because I know, and and maybe if AEW still had a little bit of that same energy that it had during the highs of time when like Punk was still around, then maybe it'd be a little different. But man, that match to be what it was, and it's a TV match, but it still was amazing. However, we have to address the elephant in the room. The unified championship that Okada holds is supposed to be the unified version, the unified result of Kenny Omega, who was the international champion, versus Okada, who was the continental champion. And you merge those two titles to create a sort of 1B to the world championship, which became the unified championship. But for a minute after that happened, Okada and Don Callis were carrying all three titles. Strange, but at one point in time, Roman was carrying like 2 or 3 belts as well when he got his new the what is now the world championship in WWE. So it was kind of strange, but it's like, but it's still what it is. But if you look at any lineage, it shows them as like 3 separate belts. Strange, but whatever. Now, what made sense to me and to others for the C2 this year, that if Okada's going to be in it, then he is defending the unified championship. What would have made even more sense is if he was not even really in it, but the winner got a shot at him in the title. Neither of those is what they did. What they did was, since this is the Continental Classic, he's only defending the Continental Championship. And he's effectively relinquished, sort of, the Continental title because of the tournament, and he's competing to win it back. So he comes out wearing the international championship. The Continental Championship is like on display, and there's no unified championship to be found, though I think Don Callis might have had it. And so per the way this is going to work out is that if he does not win the tournament, he's no longer the unified champion. because the belts will not be unified. Which then makes me wonder, then what happens to the unified champion? Does he just cease to exist? And if all of that is the thing that we're doing, why do we have an AEW national championship? This was dumb. I don't have a lot to complain about AEW. This was dumb. I don't know why we're doing this. I really try not to be one of these people, but I have to be because I kind of agree. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago when the AEW National Championship was getting introduced. I'm like, that seems like a lot. Because we just unified those two. But now they're not even unified. Now they're just kind of split. So in theory, we have these 3 belts. And what like all of this is silly. All of this is silly to me. There's so many things we could have done that we're not doing. All of this feels silly to me. I hate it. That being said, Okada and Fletcher was great. Loved it. Again, like I said earlier, I am loving the Okada character more and more every time I see it. He is crushing it. Kyle Fletcher actually gets the win. Remember how I mentioned, like on Full Gear, that Tony's taking some chances. Having Kyle Fletcher come out of the gate and beat Okada in the first match of the C2 says how far Kyle Fletcher has come, how much they believe in him, and it's huge for his career. That he got a clean win over Okada is crazy. Because I absolutely knew this was an Okada win, and it was not. Kyle gets the win. They shake hands. Everything is everything, and Kyle's on the board, and Okada is not. Wild. Next up in the ring, we have the semifinal round of the Women's World Tag Team Championship, the Base of Wrath versus Sisters of Sin. And my prediction here has always been that the final we're going to get is Sisters of Sin and Tony and Mina, because of course it's the story of Tony and Mina getting their revenge. And I guess on this night, AEW was like, watch this. Because the winners were the Babes of Wrath. And at this point, I don't know if I don't think that they would win the whole thing. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what. Tony, you've broken me. Tony Khan, you have broken me, man. I don't know what to expect anymore. And that's a great thing. That is great. Because again, you could not have told me that's how this was going to go. When it was over, I was like, wait, what? Again, for the second time. What? What? Crazy. So next up, we get this segment. We get the Joe and the Ops celebration. Hook comes out, says some stuff. And then we get this video of Swerve pulling up in the pickup, if I'm not mistaken. He has chains around his neck. Nana hands him a staple gun. As he's walking, we see Hangman join him walking towards the ring in the back. Oh, it's crazy. It's lit. The crowd lights up. Louder than they have on anything else, because we know Swerve is on the way. Whose house? Swerve's house. Cowboy shit. It's wild. And the way they appear, so the way the venue's made, there are bars on both sides. So there's the ring kind of in the middle, and it's surrounded by fans. Then there's bars kind of on the outside behind the fans on both sides. So they both come in by the bars. Hangman takes a shot, gets a bottle. Swerve's coming. They beat up some scrubs. Get in the ring. Hang a couple of the scrubs. Crowd's going crazy for Hangman and Swerve. I got decent picture, not great, but a pretty decent picture. I would say that's probably the hottest thing to happen that night. So next up, we get Moxley versus Mascara Dorada. Another solid match. I think this is kind of one of those places where you can see. Now, I think it was during the Darby and Kevin Knight match where you can kind of see me on camera. But that's neither here nor there. Mox, of course, gets the win. Dorada had a good showing, though. Dorada had a good showing. I think he may be the one. Every year there's somebody who like kind of gets shut out more or less, or only have like one match, one win. I think Mascara Dorada is going to be there in that space this time. In the space that Juice was, I don't know where he was supposed to be last year, but when who took his place? Hologram, I think took no, not Hologram. Oh, I can't remember his name. Whoever took Juice's place last year, my name is escaping me for some reason. But and I want to say Hologram, but I know it's not Hologram. It's oh crap. Now it's gonna bother me until I figure it out. Commander. What the hell? Yeah. Um when Commander basically took the place of Juice Robinson and didn't really get any points, didn't get any wins. But yeah. So maybe Dorada's going to have that kind of run this time. He makes a really good showing, but doesn't get any real wins. After the match, Marina comes out, and then Tony Storm comes out to address Marina about the stipulation for that tag team match that they won, the stipulation for the semifinal match per their win at Full Gear. And Tony lets us know that it is going to be a hardcore Hollywood holiday death match. I don't know what that means. And it's not exactly what I thought it would be. And it seems kind of ho hum. Seems like something WWE would do. But I have faith in AEW. So we'll see. Okay. Next up, Darby Allin versus Kevin Knight. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? Fucking Kevin Knight. Another statement win. I don't know what Tony was on this night in Nashville. He's like, we're going to kick this off. And nobody that you think is going to win is going to win. That was wild. That was insanity and wild. You love to see it. And it was a great match. Kevin Knight looked amazing. Another star-making win. The C2, I think, is going to do a lot of that this year. Because you got Speedball in there. You got a lot of guys who still need to kind of have those kind of rubs happen. Like, if Kevin Knight doesn't win another match, this might be one of the biggest matches he could have won. Same thing with Kyle. I know Kyle's not done. And even though it's not the C2, like Willow and Harley winning was another shocker. This night was full of shockers as far as that went. Kevin Knight looked crazy in this match, giving Darby the business. He went on his coast to coast that looked almost effortless. Some of the drop kicks. And Darby is the perfect person to sell some of this stuff. It looked great. Kevin Knight looked great. Looking forward to seeing where he goes going forward. It's gonna be huge. And in the main event, Orange Cassidy versus Claudio. This is gonna sound crazy. The same match that they've been having basically every time that they've met ever, really. So Renee's in the ring about to interview them. Orange Cassidy and Yuta kind of get into it. Death Riders jump him. Out comes basically everybody else in the C2. And then there's Okada on the ramp. Okada comes out. He's at the top of the ramp. And everybody else is running down there fighting. And he's kind of just at the top of the ramp, like, oh. I am loving more and more the Okada character in AEW. I know a lot of people don't like it. I know he's not the same Rain Man that he was in New Japan per se. This Okada is great to me. I love it. So he had this big brawl to end Dynamite. And then we switch over to Collision. And listen, that's kind of where things get weird. I was going to say fun, but the real answer is weird. Because a lot of strange things happened. A good portion of the crowd stuck around. There were a lot of people that throughout the show ended up leaving, but a good portion stuck around. Of course, me and all the guys that were kind of close to me all hung out to the end. We opened up with Pac versus Speedball Bailey, another great opening rounder. Speedball, Pac gets the win, but Speedball looks great in the midst. Another like C2 time is just banger after banger after banger every year. It never fails. Banger after banger after banger, year after year. No surprise there. Daddy Magic versus Daniel Garcia. We finally get the one-on-one match of Daddy Magic versus Daniel Garcia. Daddy Magic gets a little blood, gets a little good little gig in it. And I know he gigged it because you could see him hand a gig to the referee at one point. That's how close we were. A lot of these matches on Collision, the crowd did seem a little kind of, I don't know if you want to say tired or just there's always a little bit of a difference. And getting into the heat of it all. But Daniel Garcia gets the win via it was ref stoppage. You say submission, whatever. So after the match, Mark Briscoe comes out, basically says, Daniel Garcia, I'm gonna be a fighting champion. So you're next. You want the title? Say less. You next. So that's looks like we're getting Daniel Garcia versus Mark Briscoe. Next segment, and this is where this gets kind of fun for me. We get an FTR promo, basically in the ring. And they're coming out talking, whatever. But out come the Bang Bang Gang. And they basically say, hey, we pinned FTR. So next time we wrestle is going to be for them titles. And, we coming for you. It wasn't much. Where it gets fun, though, is as FTR is leaving. Remember where I said I'm sitting? I'm sitting on the back row. That's literally the first row from the stage. So I'm right by the stage. So as the FTR is leaving, people are jawing with them. You know how they like to do. They're going to get all in everybody's face. The guys in the row next to me are jawing at FTR. There are pictures in the slideshow that I included at the beginning where you can see I have very clear shots of them laying down because they're talking to the guy next to me. But somehow I managed to catch a stray because somewhere in there, they're telling Stoke that Stoke ain't got no hoes because he said it. He ain't got no hoes. So they're like, yo, he ain't got no hoes. Dex is about to jump off the stage at us. Cash comes over and he's like, you saying he ain't got no hoes? What in the hell? It's 5 dudes in this row. Where y'all hoes at? How I catch a stray? I'm just trying to catch some pictures of y'all, man. What the hell going on here? The guy next to me was like, well, I brought a woman with me. Here's my hoe. It's fucking crazy. It is fucking crazy what is happening. That is also part of price of admission for me that I got jawed, that I caught a stray from FTR. How did that happen? Wildness. Fucking crazy. So next up, we get MXM casting call. They're dressed like the Wizard of Oz. And we get the Outrunners and Dalton Castle versus MXM TV. Of course, Outrunners and Castle win. It was a quick little squash. I don't see this in the notes, so I'm not sure that this actually happened on TV. You can tell me if it did or not, but Ricochet comes out. I hadn't watched the actual show. Ricochet comes out, basically says, this should have been my celebration time. Gates of Agony come out. They take out Dalton and the Outrunners. Ricochet comes down, kind of jaws with this country star, I guess, in Nashville. I'll be honest, I don't know who he was. Apparently neither did a lot of people, which is why I don't think it really got any heat. In WWE, they picked the big, like if it was Jelly Roll, then everybody would, whatever. And then that, so I don't know if that was a TV thing or if that was just because I don't see it in the notes, so I figure it's kind of strange they didn't mention that. But maybe they left it out. Next up, we got Eddie Kingston versus Shibata. Fairly quick match with a very strange ending because at some point, Shibata hits this low blow, literally right in front of the ref. And the ref doesn't DQ him. And I don't know if that was like supposed to happen. It was weird. We all were kind of sitting there like, that definitely should be the end of the match. Like, that was a very blatant low blow. Like, and it wasn't the end. Eddie wins with a DTT, and that was it. We all were like, what? What just happened? What just happened? It was weird. It was weird. But Eddie gets on the mic, cuts this promo. Again, I think that I'm pretty sure they cut a whole lot of that promo from what he actually said in person versus what showed up on TV. I'm actually gonna go back and watch it to see. Probably Dynamite and Collision. Collision especially because I know they cut that. They can kind of cut that up. They can edit that or whatever. But I think there was a lot in both of those two segments that I just named that may or may not have been on TV. And basically, Eddie like I said, cuts the promo, really passionate. Ultimately, just challenges Joe to a title match at Winter is Coming. So, sign me up for that because I think that's going to be crazy too. Next up, we had Tekla versus Top Mello. Of course, Tekla gets the win here. Match, the crowd was not hot for this. I'll be honest, really hardly at all. Sisters of Sin after the match. Sisters of Sin try to come out and jump Top Mello. Jamie Hayter comes down, then Stat comes. Triangle of Madness makes their retreat. And in the main event, Blue League, we had Konosuke Takeshita versus Roddy Strong. Another banger. Right, I was watching that like, Roddy is horribly underrated. I don't know why. It's one of those things like I don't think he's like a world champion guy, but Roddy is incredibly underrated. And his character work in AEW, because if you think about the evolution of his character since he's been in AEW, it has come a very, very long way. And here he is now in the C2, killing it. That met him to, again, just like I said before with Kyle Fletcher and Okada. Takeshita does not miss here lately. Does not miss. And having another match with Roddy just kind of solidifies again, like, dude does not miss at all. I mean, Takeshita pulls out the win, and we go off the air with Takeshita on the board. All in all, again, a huge week in AEW. A lot of shock, surprise wins, a lot of upsets, a lot of I did not see that happening. Whether it be Joe winning the title, Kevin Knight pinning Darby, Kyle Fletcher pinning Okada, Babes of Raz beating Sisters of Sin, like back over and over and over. They were like, wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? I know I said that a lot in the last week. What? What? I sound like Stone Cold. Okay. Crazy. But you love to see it. Sometimes you need a little unpredictability in your wrestling, and that unpredictability is what makes it exciting. We like sometimes when you can see the through line, but every now and then you got to shake some shit up. And this was a lot of shake up. And the thing with the C2 is, yes, there are losses, but people aren't really losing any prestige from these losses per se. So there's a lot of room for it to go from there. I am really already enjoying where the C2 is going, and these brackets make it even crazier to me because just off the top of my head, I'm looking at, we got Kevin Knight and Pat, great match. We're going to get Kevin Knight and Speedball, great match. Going Kevin Knight and Kyle Fletcher, it's going to be great. Kevin Knight and Okada, Pac and Okada, Pac and Kyle Fletcher, Darby and Okada, Darby and Kyle Fletcher, Speedball Okada, Speedball Pac, Speedball. Oh, we got Speedball Pac already. Speedball Darby Allin. Like every one of those matches is intriguing to me. Blue League, not much different. Takeshita and Moxley? Takeshita and Claudio? Dorado? Dorado's just going to have good matches with everybody, so it's not as intriguing, but they're just going to be good matches. Roddy in some of these matches, we've seen with Orange, they got a history. Dorado's going to be really good. Roddy and Claudio, I don't know if they've had a match or not, but that's going to be interesting as well. We're going to get Claudio and Mox. Interesting. Roddy and Orange is going to be interesting as well. Takeshita, Dorado is going to be amazing. Takeshita, Orange Cassidy is going to be very interesting. So there's a lot. The thing that makes the most sense, or it did, and I don't know how weird, now it's weird because they did this weird thing with the titles, but it seemed inevitable that we were going to get Okada versus Takeshita, maybe in a winner take all match, or at least in the finals of this, which may still happen, but I don't know what any of that means now. They have mucked it up. It's very weird. It's very confusing. I don't like it. I don't know why we did it, but it's C2 season, and that kind of makes up for it. Whoop-de-whoop. I believe next week we get the Tony and Mina versus Marina and Megan Bain match. I'm assuming it's next week. It may or may not be. No. I think it's 2 weeks. I think they said December. It might be at Winter is Coming, actually. I'm being honest. I don't think it was next week. So we got that coming up. Seems like they're going to try to stretch this out. They may stretch out the finals 2 worlds in, especially if we're doing that other semifinal match at Winter is Coming. So we'll see. But that is Dynamite, and that's my experience at Dynamite and a Collision. And that was my review of Full Gear and the show. I've talked your ear off now for a while, so let's go on and get out of here. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Black Phoenix Network, to Talmbout Rasslin. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you follow us here on Substack, on YouTube, on Spotify. Make sure you leave a review or a rating or whatever. Share, subscribe, comment, engage. 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 Okay, sorry, I got a little carried away. But yeah, engage, engage, engage. That's the only way we can grow this platform. It's the only way we can get bigger, and that's the only way I can bring more to you. All right. And I am looking forward to bringing more to you. So, with that being said, without further ado, I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in to the Black Phoenix Network and to Talking About Wrestling podcast. And like I always say around this time, until next time, we are out.